Okay, we had a little friend come and pick up some paints for the class we're going to have on Friday by Zoom. So I had a little bit of a break here in the film. I'm just using the point of this nice. This is I think this is an Escoda brush. It's got a nice synthetic and mixed kind of point. And whereas this one's much softer. This is Squirrel. This one, it's got a pretty good point, but very, very soft. Not stiff, but I like to switch around. Each brush has a little bit of different behavior. Okay, so let's see here. This is a transparent red oxide color. It's a very nice reddish color and very transparent, not granulated. So I think that red blends in nicely with what had been poured by the ice crystals. And I'm just going to take some water and stretch that out a little bit. Let that wash a little bit in here. It's sort of the centerpiece tree, and partly the scene was all created because the ice crystals in here came out so nicely that I decided that looked like it would be a nice base for an interesting tree. So it just happens to be the way the paint poured and fell and slid down the paper and made a nice texture. So I just am using thin, watery layers of paint that this is a nice reddish color, but I don't want to put too much, but I want it to blend in nicely with the ice crystals. Yeah, like that. This is a little bit of burnt sienna. It's a little more brown than that transparent red oxide. It's a less transparent, more opaque color. It probably would be nice to have some kind of a knot or something there. Like I said, this was imaginary, so it just create a little bit of texture. There are always little things sticking out of trees here and there where branches broke off. And just make it up. You know, after a lifetime of walking around looking at trees, it's I don't always have to be standing in front of one to paint it. And of course you want it to have some gradation of shape to show that it's round. And some roughness, but not so much as to take away from the ice crystals that are there. Usually when you walk in the woods, you'll see that on the north side you have this more greenish color from the moss that develops on that side of the tree. And if you're getting lost and you want to find north, a lot of times you can do it by looking for the more greenish color on the back sides of all the trees, and that will show you where the north is, where it's colder and wetter. Weather is coming from that part. This tree is starting to look like a real tree. Of course, I'm biased. Now here in the roots, there'll be some things sticking up, and then the roots go down into the ground, and also many times they'll follow along the stream bed as the water washes away soil. You'll see some roots get exposed. But you know, the tree has to basically put its arms out here or its legs out and grab onto the soil and spread out, and so it's important to show that structure happening. Gives the tree its base and connection to the earth. So you just need to think about how the trees are formed and how they stay upright. And I'm just putting some bark thin lines with a very watery thin wash. I can always come back with more dark. So there's a tree. There'll be another one here. I think I'll take a slightly different color for this one of these background trees back here. And the light is bright, so it kind of, the tree breaks up a little bit. You don't necessarily see all of it because the light is so powerful in this area that it goes around the branches and you don't necessarily see everything. And again, I connect the tree down to the earth. Not all of them, but most of them, some of them. Here, a little bit of gradation here and there. And don't forget, it always dries lighter than the way it looks when you're putting it on. And some more thin trees going up. Lots of little small trees going up. And then down around the base, like before, there are these little trees that come up. Not on all of them. I shouldn't have done so many. I got carried away. But it's a start. And here, connect these trees to the earth with their roots a bit. see my very wrinkly hand. Yeah, it's a hand that's done a lot of work over the years, and it shows. It's a little bit of ash from the wood stove on my knuckle. Okay, so I'm going to take some New Gamboge, which is a nice, it's a type of yellow color. And mix a little bit of that with the transparent red oxide. It gives me a sort of a soft color here. And I might use to just create some soft gradations on the soil, on the ground. This is what's called scrumbling, when you just, you don't draw any specific lines, you just gently let the brush play around, make some uneven strokes here and there. And we'll continue some scrumbling. See, just put a little bit of paint on it. You don't make it too wet, you just scrumble. It's called scrumbling. I don't know where that word comes from, but anyway, it's what a number of people call it. And then slightly different, darker in there mixed in, change, give a little change. More different color and texture, a little more, just to make it an impression of the earth. And this is the kind of thing that you start and you just go gradually, you take your time, and you build it up over time. I mean, some people are very, very precise about this, realists, carefully painting each little thing. I just try to get an impression of that background, a feeling for it, rather than precisely doing anything. And it's starting to just give the sense of, you know, some soil, some fallen leaves maybe. Some little plants here and there. Just an impression. And it's starting to, and then some little bit of washes of color, and some little impressions. And then one of the things that I like to do at this point is splatter a little bit. I just take a toothbrush and rub it in the paint. Just rub it in the paint and go like this. I think you can see there's some splatter. Just wet it a little, make a little bit of wet paint here. Not too wet, because then it'll just drip big blobs, but put some splatter in here. You see? I'll put a little splatter over here too. And then I can still go over that with color and add more scrumbling. little bit of darker. Maybe I think I'll put in a little bit of violet now, a little bit of magenta, mixed with a little bit of brown. It's going to just give me a slightly different color to come in here and put in some, you see what I mean? Connect some of these trees a little better to the earth by making like little shadows and connections. We don't want them to look like they're sitting in the middle of the air. This a little more scrumbling, not continuous everywhere, but here and there. I'll get some over here, a little bit. I like that slightly violet color here. It's nice. Balances out with the bluish mixture of blue and brown that I did, and makes a nice. Now I'm going to go for a more intense yellow in a few areas. Just here and there. Let that blend in next to the violet. And you know, like in Easter, purple and yellow always makes a nice contrast. So a little bit of contrasting color here and there makes the painting pop a little bit. Shoreline, a little more shoreline scrumbling, just to indicate that there's some stones and things like that on the edge here, and some exposed dirt and erosion. Yeah, a little more down here too. So it's beginning to have an emergence of a forest scene with a lot of light behind coming through the trees. I'm going to take a break soon in this stage, but I just want to do a little bit more diversity of the darks here of this tree before I give it a rest. Maybe a little bit of that violet in here. On one side of the tree. Give it a little more shape. And a little bit of the violet, the dark violet here. And these two. Yeah. Just so that they're not all just one color. Let's bring some of that violet over here, maybe with one of these trees. A little bit of brown and violets to take away some of that blue from one of the main trees over here. So they're not all looking the same, because they look a little bit too much the same. They need a little bit of diversity. In the forest, there's a lot of diversity. Give some shape to these lines here that I just quickly put down. All right. I think that's okay for now. I'm going to let it dry, look at it, and then come back to it maybe tomorrow. Putting a little blue in there. It's hard to know when to call it quits. Okay. So that's where we are for now. We'll do more on this, and maybe one or two more sections. Let this dry for now. There'll be more detailed trees here. Maybe a bit more detail there. I'm kind of liking that tree. I don't know how much more I'll do to that. We'll add some scrumbling in here. And then we'll think about whether there's need to be some stones in the stream or not. And whether a little bit of more color in the stream or not. So, but it's not a bad start. So I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.